dragon table, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am going to go over a tutorial on how to play Mage Knight, but I'm not going to do the tutorial that you usually see. What you usually see for this game is the tutorial for how to play the walkthrough. I'm going to skip to the first scenario that you would actually play. In this case, it would be the cooperative full conquest scenario. That means this is going to be a several-part episode in order to go more in-depth into the game. It's not going to be a playthrough, but it will cover more aspects of the game than you would see maybe in one of my typical short tutorials. And what we're going to start with today is I'm actually going to start by showing you how I store the game. Because the game comes with a lot of pieces and a lot of cards and a very flimsy black plastic holder that I think that mine was actually split when I got it, like it was already broken. It just didn't make any sense to use it to store the game. For such a high quality game, this is, I mean, it's very, very well made game with really nice parts and nice components. There's no reason to not do a nice job of storing it. So I'm going to show you how I store mine in case it gives you any ideas for storing your own. And if you like what you see inside this box, someday I will have to show you what's inside my Arkham Horror box, because that is a thing of beauty. So I got rid of the black plastic that came with the game. I went to the Container Store and I picked up a couple of extra storage bins. I already had some card containers. These are for baseball cards, for collectible card games. They fit the sleeved cards in it, and I highly recommend that you sleeve the cards that come in this game, because there's a lot of shuffling and the cards are a linen finish. They do tend to split when you shuffle them. So I do recommend sleeving them. I did not sleeve all of the wound cards that came with the game because you don't technically need them all, and it saves some space in storage. This one contains the non-sleeved cards that are some of the city cards, the reference cards, and the tactics cards. They all fit neatly in this little container. But all the rest of the cards are in here. These are all of the heroes. So they're all the heroes are divided up into here. And then all the rest of the cards that come with the game I've put in these containers. I use the Ultra Pro sleeves. I know not everybody likes the Ultra Pro sleeves because of this little holographic sticker that's on them, but as long as you don't put it on this side, you're not going to be blocking any of the artwork or the text that you need for the cards. It just is going to be maybe a little bit unsightly, but it's pretty small. I don't really notice it, and I like the quality of the sleeves. For the amount that you shuffle these cards, it's worth investing in some good sleeves and not just penny sleeves. In this big bin, I have the city clicks. There are 4 city clicks that come with it. I've got my mana crystals, and I have each of my heroes along with all of the little pieces that come with the heroes, their abilities, and the little shields that you use to mark where you've had victories on the battlefield. And they all fit really neatly in this container with room for I do have one of the expansions. I haven't added it to the set yet, though. My hexes, I obviously have a rubber band. It's not a tight rubber band. It's pretty a loose rubber band, because a tight one could dent the surface of the tiles. So I've got a loose rubber band, and I took one of the inserts from one of my camera bags to protect the edges of the tiles from the edges of the box and the other plastic containers that are inside the box. So if you're not a camera aficionado, these you can actually you can pick these up at a camera store. They usually sell them in in packs. They're good for use in different types of boxes to help cushion storage pieces, particularly if you have anything worth value or miniatures or that kind of thing. They're just handy to have. So that's what I use to protect my tiles or my hexes. And then I have two of these. These are identical. Basically all of the monster tiles and the location tiles I've all got in here. And I've got altars on this side, and I have the some of the city defense tiles, and the Draconum are over here, along with my mana dice over here. If you after you play a game, if you mix these up when you put them back in, you're basically right out of the box ready to play the game, because you can just then pull your monsters at random directly from these little containers. And then you don't have to worry about having precarious monster stacks spread out around the board. All you have to do is mix them up when you finish a game, and then just set up these nice little containers around the edge of your board. So that's how I store Mage Knight. Now let's go on to setup. Okay, this setup may look a little bit strange. It's going to definitely look sideways to you from where the camera is. But that's because the map is going to spread out this way. And I've set it up for a 2-player co-op game. So it's going to be a full cooperative city conquest game that I play with 2 players. I've got Tovok and Arithia. And this is going to be my play area for Tovok. This is going to be my play area for Arithia, and where I keep their units and where I play their cards. It's a little tight. If I was just playing the game by myself without the video camera present, I'd spread out a little bit more. But I'm trying to get as much as I can into the frame, because there is a lot of components to this game, and there are a lot of cards that have to be out, in addition to the map that's then going to fill up this part of the board. If you have not played this game before, I highly recommend that your first game be the walkthrough. I recommend doing the walkthrough as a solo game first before you try to teach it to anybody else. You could do the walkthrough with someone else who's also learning the game. It's just going to make it a little bit more complicated than if you have to go through and learn the rules on your own first. But the basic setup for all of the games is the same. You have your player marker, which has these level tokens on it, and there's little, it's kind of hard to see because the cards are dark, but there's an octagonal space that's for your level markers. You start with 1 out because you're allowed to have 1 unit to start with. It's only once you start leveling up that you can flip over these tokens and get more units out. This is your deed deck. This is what you'll draw and play from. This is your stack of skills for Arithia. They're over here. You also have little tokens that you may be placing out on the board to denote where you have victories at different locations or adventure sites on the board. Each character comes with a cheat sheet list of what their special skills are, so that you can keep track of them. I don't bother to sleeve those. Also makes it easier to find them if they're not sleeved. And all they do is sit there. This is the regular unit deck. This is what you use at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, you put out 3 units from the regular deck face up. This is called the unit offer. And during the first round, which will be daytime, you can choose from these, and they will not get replenished until the end of the round. The gold deck is the elite unit deck. These are the ones that you use when you get down to the core city tile hexes. And I will show you how I made the tile hex stack here in just a minute. This is the advanced action deck, and there are always 3 advanced actions out on offer. These do get replenished if they get taken, either because someone levels up or because of some action that they take. These are different than the advanced actions that will be offered as a result of a monastery showing up. Those will be in the unit offer, and they're handled a little bit differently. These are the tactic cards. There are tactic cards for daytime and nighttime. Again, I don't bother sleeving these because they don't get shuffled. They actually get looked through and chosen. If you start to notice wear on them that you don't like, you can always sleeve them, but I just do it for storage sake. This is the day-night board. It has your mana dice on it. It's the source of your mana. And it also explains what the movement is during the daytime in the different terrains that you'll encounter. During nighttime, you'll flip it over. And the full conquest or fully cooperative conquest has 6 rounds, 3 day and 3 night. And this is what the night side looks like. And it also explains the different movement at night versus daytime. Each player puts one of their markers on the board, starting at 0 on the fame track. And fame is what you use to level up. Once you've moved, once you've moved up to the 3rd space, you actually get to go up a level. And this shows you what you get each level. When you do your first leveling, you'll get to choose an advanced action card from the offer, and you'll also get a skill that will be chosen from one of 2 that you draw at random. Then once you go up to the next level, you get the next level of token gets flipped over. Actually, I have these upside down. This should be this way. Which will increase the amount of armor that you have, and later on it will increase the number of cards that you can have in your hand. It will also increase the number of units you can have at your disposal. So it alternates every other level. You're also going to put one of your markers on the reputation track, starting with the main middle 0 marker. As you gain reputation, it makes it easier to do things like recruit units, heal in villages. There are a variety of different things that you can do with reputation, either from your cards or with the help from the track. Or you could hinder yourself by going negative in the reputation track. There's no benefit to going negative in the reputation track. I think it would have been interesting if they had added that somehow in the game, that you could choose to be evil and you'd have some kind of an advantage that way, but it actually just hurts you if you go negative. Over here I have the spell deck with the spell offer out. This is the wound deck, so it's all just wound cards. And this is the artifact deck, which is used the least frequently of all of the cards in the game. I've also got my different monsters and site tokens out. The number of mana dice you use is 2 plus the number of people playing. And since the number of actual players is 2 plus 2, you get 4 dice. But we have all of our tokens easily accessible, and I can pull in and draw one out at random if I want to. Or I could mix them up. That's just the way I choose to do it, is to leave them in their little plastic containers. It's neater and makes it easier to clean up. I've got my stack of mana tokens here. And because I'm playing with only 2 players, I'm using side A of the starting tile. Side B gives you a wider map to work with. That would be much too big for just 2 players. Side A is better for 2 players because it's going to keep the map shaped like this. Now I created my hex draw pile by choosing 8 countryside tiles at random, setting them aside, mixing them up, and then I chose 3 city tiles and 2 core non-city tiles. So they have the brown backings like the city tiles, but they don't have cities on them. So 3 of these have cities on them and 2 of them don't. So that's part of the adventure, is that you might flip over a tile that doesn't have a city on it. But those go on the bottom because that is the end of your adventure, is when you're finding the cities. So you start by discovering countryside tiles first. Once the cities come out, two things happen. For one thing, there are cards that describe what happens in those cities, both in terms of the benefit of conquering the city and also what horrible defense mechanism the people guarding the city have. It can be pretty bad. And you also get to put out your the city clicks that match whichever city comes out. The first two cities that come out in a two-player co-op game are going to be level 5, and the second is going to be a level 8. If you're playing with 3 people, then the third city, I believe, is a level 11. And the more you play this game and the more you get used to it, sometimes you just crank up those cities and you can do really high levels. It's very hard to tell by looking at these little teeny dots that are here on the clicks. Exactly what monsters are supposed to be defending the city. What you should know is it's always going to be either white, purple, brown, or gray. There are no green monsters and there are no red monsters. The first couple of times I played this game, I did make the mistake of having some Draconum defending the cities because they looked like there were little red dots on these cities, but they in fact are never red. It's purple, which is the mages. The Draconum are pretty nasty, but the mages are pretty nasty too. And because this is a co-op game, I'm not going to go over any player versus player stuff. That adds a whole nother level of complexity to the game. But also because of that, it means that we have to have a dummy player. If this was a competitive game, we would not have to have a dummy player because the players would be driving each other to keep going in the game. Without the dummy player, since it's co-op and we're both working for the same goal, you need to have a dummy player because otherwise you could just sit on a glade and heal, or you could just sit on a mines and gain crystals, or you could kind of waste your time and not use your cards to the best of their ability and not keep the game cracking along. So having a dummy, in this case Goldex is our dummy of the day. He starts with 2 green crystals and a blue crystal, and those will be added to at the end of each round. And I will explain how the dummy player works when I get into the actual play of the game. Each player is going to start with 5 cards in their hand. I highly recommend that you try and figure out what you're going to do while the other person is taking their turn. Otherwise, this game can go on forever. I've actually not ever played it with 4 people, specifically because I was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't, I can't do it. I can't play a 4-player version of this game with people especially people who are new to it, because the analysis paralysis can be really, really bad since you're playing off of cards and you're having to make decisions. And if you're not paying attention and if you're not figuring out what to do during the other people's turns, oh my god, it's like, just kill me now. But that is how you set up the game, and that is how you set up the hex stack if you're going to be doing a fully cooperative city conquest. This middle piece has water on the edges of it, and you have to imagine that the water extends out. So when you're laying pieces out, you can't extend past where the water would be. And I think that's it for this video. That's your basic setup. The setup is pretty similar for any of the scenarios. This is how it works for the cooperative full conquest. And I think that we'll be ready next time to start introducing some of the elements of gameplay. Thanks for visiting the Dragon Table. I will see you next time.